Yeah, so again, looking forward to this meeting. I think last couple of days, Berend also told me that we still had a bit of problem with the tool itself, bit of overburdened by all the enthusiast responses. So that's something that we'll have to look into, talking to the builders of this tool. Last school with India, actually, there was another glitch and they solved it, but still not 100% okay-ish. But hopefully today it will function.
Yes, I hope so too. And maybe to already get ahead of some of the questions, we know that not everyone was able to cast their vote in the game because this traffic issue with the servers, well, because that happened. So we're not gonna let you not get a certificate just because you didn't manage to get your vote in. That's not gonna be a problem, so don't worry about that. It's good that you're all here. Michel, I have one question. Are you able to, if you click on people, then click the triple dot next to someone's name when they have their hand raised and unmute them? Because I'm going to be sharing my screen for the game, right? So then,
yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I guess so. I have good
Okay,
connection
otherwise
here.
we can,
And,
yeah, triple dot
yeah,
and then
okay.
it's allow mic.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have, 250 people in the call. It's quite a good number. I expect still some people to trickle in. What do you say? Shall we just get started?
Yeah, I would suggest let's start. Don't let 250 people wait for the ones that are a bit late.
Exactly. I will start to share my screen.
Okay, so, well, thank you again for all being here. It's now, I see 275, which is great. What we will do today is actually reflect a bit on the game so far, on the results. On the one hand, you, or at least a lot of you, have been casting votes, and hopefully only little numbers were not able to because of the technical glitches, because of the, well, probably bandwidth. I'm not sure. But we will do it in two steps. First, have another quick look at the group board, and then secondly, we go to the voting part, and then the third part is about the causality matrix.
Yes.
And what we discussed, Berend and I, in the preparations of this meeting, is to explain on the one hand a bit what we see on the screen here at this point in time. The reason that all these cards are showing up is because at least 5 people played such a card. I think that's important to know. And what we discussed yesterday, and maybe that is something, because this is quite a full stack of cards. That maybe we higher the threshold from 5 to maybe 10, and then it might be that the density of all the cards played is a little bit less, but it also will tell us a bit more, perhaps, on what you think are the most important cards to be played, actually. So maybe, Berend, we can start doing that.
Yes, I can do that. Give me 1 second. I will share again my screen when I have changed that. So yeah, what that will do is that it will only show cards that have been placed by at least 10 people indeed. So it shows a bit, well, in terms of priority, which ones are actually, well, considered very important by the most of you, by a larger number. Trying to load it, Michel, but it has some issues, so it's a bit slow. Let's see if it works.
Okay. Yeah, I think at this point in time, maybe a lot of people are already logged in on the game itself. That might cause a bit of legacy or latency, I should say. But anyway, the idea by hiring the threshold is to maybe filter out a bit of the cards played less than 10 times. And if it's still the same, you can still do an action that to say, okay, let's make it 20 or 25 even. But so what in general I would like to do if the game is being shown is to go over a couple of the columns and a couple of rows to see where there is maybe some significant interesting observations to be made actually. So I hope that this will succeed, Berend.
Yeah, it's letting me in, but it's still loading, so we might need a minute.
Okay.
We could
So
also, yeah.
Yeah. So what it tells us if and I think I alluded to it a little bit last time already. If you look at the various columns, for example, then you might see either a emphasis on response or a emphasis on preparation actually. And of course, from a business continuity point of view, it's best, of course, to invest as much as possible in the preparation so that you don't need any responses because the systems are not hampered by attacks whatsoever. And that's often the most effective, most cost efficient investment in capabilities, of course. In practice, of course, there's always this rat race between the defenders and the offenders, and that is something of a constant status of affairs. You see that not only in cyber, but you see that in multiple domains where also, especially also in defense, of course, that there's a constant race between technologies and capabilities and processes. But in general, and I think that's important to understand, is that the best investment is, of course, in preparations. You do need, of course, some preparations in response, because you can be guaranteed that that stuff will happen, and that means that you also have to have your response capability in order. And for those that are maybe also having a ambition to work in the defense area, for example, or like in the Netherlands, where we do have work on intelligence and other organizations, there is within the laws, at least in the various countries, the possibility to do so some part of more offensive capabilities, so like taking down criminal groups and others. But for that, again, you also need to have your own protection and prevention highly sophisticated before you start doing that. Otherwise, you'll have your counterattacks that you'll then be not able to respond to in a good manner. So, Berend, tell us, is this the filter with 10?
Sadly not. It's not letting me through
Ah.
in time. I think in the interest of time, it might be wise to just look at this and then move on to the voting part, the ordering.
Okay.
Because I think it's slow again because we have a lot of people probably on the server. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely something that we have to take up with Guzman
Yeah, for
for
sure.
next time. But what I actually already said is you can see that still. Huh? So on the one hand, you have in the column protection and prevention most cards played, most cards, and also in mitigation, and those two, of course, are the best value for money. Let's say it like that. And the less is in deterrence. Well, and that's the question, of course. Is this enough? Having the capability to protect and prevent is in itself a kind of deterrence, because it's like if you have a lock on your door and your neighbor has not, then a thief will probably go to your neighbor first, because it's easier to get in that house instead of your house. And that's basically how it works with cyber as well. So I think in that sense, I think there's a logic here in the distribution of cards played. If you then look at the rows, actually, again, you see quite a balanced distribution. Diplomacy, military, counterintelligence, but also public-private partnerships. The interesting thing with public-private partnerships is that it's very contextual specific, and I mean in terms of also country specific. In the Netherlands, we had from the start the idea already 2 decades ago that cybersecurity could not be well organized without the private sector involved, because they own a lot of the infrastructures. They are potentially with many more. They have often even better capabilities because they can maybe pay more and better salaries. It's not always the case. But the fact that the combination of public-private is so strong in the Netherlands is for the reason that in the combination, the best preparation is done. What you often see is that the government have a first responsibility for the government infrastructures, the cyber infrastructures, and a little bit less for the private infrastructures. So, and that's on the other hand where the private partners come in, but they also have a dual-headed purpose as well, because they help out on specifics for governments as well. So I think, and that's why I take a bit of extra time going over this discussion here, is that if you're really well prepared as a country, you'll probably see that your public-private partnerships are flourished. And that means that in terms of policies and incentives, that should be organized. And one of the problems, of course, always are the sharing of intelligence, actually. Because it's not always the case that it's so easy to share threat intel from a private company to another, or from a government agency like an intelligence service agency to private entities, because of all the sensitivities. But so, for example, in the Netherlands, we have this ISACs, this institutionalized collaboration agreements with specific sectors, like with railroad infrastructure companies and the government and Intel, to share data. And you probably are familiar with that. You have this what they call traffic light protocol. So red is something you can only share with the group that you are in at the moment. If it's orange, you can share it with the people around you that you're responsible for and working with. And green is more open to the more general knowledge. And that's a circumvention of having to classify everybody or to vet everybody to be able to adjust and have all the intel that is even secret, because that's often too difficult. But the traffic light protocol is something, I think it's quite common already, but that is something that you especially use in public-private partnership combinations as well. Then maybe, Berend, you could scroll up and down a bit and highlight the cards that are being shown on the right-hand side.
Definitely.
Yeah. So just a couple, because you see them showing up. The distribution is kind of okay, indeed. Implement protection measures.
Yeah, that's
you can
everywhere.
see it like this. Yeah, which is okay, you know. Because you probably need it everywhere.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Maybe there's one that stands out as being specific, number 7, exploit asymmetric information. That's one that is less played indeed.
Yeah, it's clearly counterintelligence or intelligence.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where it should be placed indeed. And probably there's only a few organizations normally in a country that have the mandate to do that anyway. Okay. Yeah,
Raising awareness.
Yeah,
Clearly,
go ahead.
yeah, no, clearly prevention, mitigation, right? I mean, that also makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
This again is counterintelligence.
Yeah. What I also hope that you guys did is, if you did not really understand the concept of this, of every card, that you went on the web and looked up what it might be, because I think that is part of where you have a more steeper learning curve. And on the other hand, I think, and that's what you might do, Berend, is to click on one of the cards on the, because then we see all the arguments, and then we might just take one that we think, hey, this is an anomaly, maybe a little bit.
Let's see.
Then to see, yeah.
Why not diplomacy response, Garner International Sports?
Yep. Okay.
See what we did
Just
there.
click on it, what the arguments were.
Yeah, let's see if it shows up. Actually, it doesn't. It's interesting.
Strange.
That is kind of weird.
It should show up indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
I know why this doesn't work, actually. It's kind of... Maybe here?
Yeah, go to card number 19 it was, huh?
Yeah. It's loading.
I think you guys put in so much information that the system has a problem handling it immediately. But that's
we have
definitely
a
something
record
that we...
number of participants, Michel, and it shows. So
yeah, it shows. That's true. Now we will definitely go back to our, say, the builders of this tool to say, hey guys, you need probably a stronger server.
Yeah.
to be able to have this game played with serious numbers.
Yes, well, this card, it is loading, so it looks like something is coming through.
Okay, let's take this a bit of time then. I
If
see a lot of
it,
thumbs up. I must say, every time also we learn. Last time we played it with the Indians, they came up with a couple of ideas that we basically let build in, and we'll come to that later to show you. But if you probably have experienced yourself, is that when you are in the game and you look at the group board, you can also highlight your own cards being played. I hope I'll just that's a question now that I now have for the audience. If that is so, then put up a thumb or something. So we definitely know that this functionality works, because we of course did test it, but now with this big group, I see a thumb up. That's great.
good.
Because
Good.
Yeah, because that means that you can, if you look at the group board, you can also compare what you did versus what the rest did. I think that's interesting also as a part of the learnings of this game. And I think Berend, that we'll leave this game open for a while anyway, so that even people that didn't do it so much afterwards could still have a bit of time to say, okay, let's explore that possibility as well.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll just leave it open. Okay. Until the end of the school. Here we go. This is unfortunate. Okay, let's see if I can get in again. I did make some screenshots beforehand, but the problem is that we obviously would like to do the final step of the game during this call with everyone, which is tricky if we have a 504, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, so while you're trying to restore the situation, let me explain what we would like to do next with you guys. You have been enabled to do voting. And I think you got 10 votes, isn't it?
Eight cards.
Or eight cards. You could vote 8.
Yeah.
And why do we normally do this? Is to create, especially in bigger groups, but we create scarcity, as we call it, because you cannot have it all. If you would be the chief information security officer, you might, in a company, you might say, yeah, I'll need to do this 110 capabilities and it costs you 5 million. And then your CEO will say, okay, here you got 100,000. That's about it. So you have to always try to prioritize. And what we're going to do now is when you guys have done the voting, 8 votes basically means you can spend your money on 8 cards. And because we are with a big group, we can then see what the collective wisdom is in terms of what you think as a group are the most important cards that should come in place, given the situation, the scenario basically. After doing that, we will then go to what we would call the causality matrix. What is about that? You could invite, or you could select, I would say, 8 cards. But the question is, if you look at it from a security perspective, would that be separate items, or would those cards have something to do with each other? Because you might think of it also in value chains. If you, as I explained earlier, if you want to do a more offensive kind of operation, you probably need to be highly mature in your defense first. So there's a correlation here. And the idea of this causality matrix, where we put in a filter, which is the voting, but in the causality matrix, the idea is that by, on the one hand, trying to pinpoint what card is relating to what other card, you get a other kind of sense of, okay, if we invest in something, we should probably invest in a combination of cards, because they either strengthen each other and or the other way around. It could also be that some activities might not per se help out each other, but and that might sometimes maybe a bit counterintuitive. But the concept, let's say it like this, the concept of the causality matrix is helping out on decision making in terms of what would be the best investment in capabilities. And it might be that you understand that at some point, if you start doing your investment plans, that you see there's this one capability that we always need, whatever it takes. And the other ones are good, and 1 or 2 are nice to have, but they all help out in this value chain, in this case, the cybersecurity value chain, so to say. And I hope Berend, while doing this voiceover.
Yeah, I sadly I've bad news. It seems to still be the 504 gateway problem. So this is the traffic issue. Very unfortunate. So that means that we, for now, and we can try again in a couple of minutes, are not able to do anything in the game. But what we can do, and that might also, I mean, if we leave the game open a bit longer after the session, Michel, until the end of the school, then people will have time to try this out for themselves, right? So that can still be done. What we can do now, I have some screenshots from before this session started this morning, which shows at least the voting that was done. And it actually also shows, because we had some people who were very eager, already some causality that was enabled in the matrix.
Okay, let's do it then.
So that is, we can at least use that. So yeah, maybe we make this half of an instruction session and also a bit of a reflection already, because we're going to leave the game open for longer. What we can see here is what it looks like if you have cast your vote. So the votes have been done. we see that there's quite some people who voted. There's 112 votes on this card, and then quite big numbers. And what happens if you have issued your vote is that you can then order the cards that you have voted for. So it will show a maximum number of cards that were voted for by everyone, and then the amount of votes that each card has gotten. So that is already, as Michel alluded to before, the prioritization, right? Of which 8 cards do I think we should spend our money on, so to say. Well, these are the cards that everyone thought that of, so that were voted on by everyone. And then what you can do in the game portal, once it works again, later today or tomorrow maybe, you can drag and drop. So you can click on one of these cards and drag them up or down. And by doing that, you create a prioritization of cards, right? So you actually rank them in terms of which capability do I think is the most important to start with, so to say, out of this subset that we have turned up with because of the voting, right? So out of all the 47 cards that were initially there and that you all placed on the group board in the different domains, we have a subset of cards that were voted for by everyone. And then you can personally rank them in terms of which capability is most important and which is maybe less important. And once you've done that, you can go to, and this is a screenshot, so in the game portal it looks a bit nicer. You can go to the group order, and there it will show what this ranking is. So this will differ from your own ranking, likely, of everyone. So it's the aggregated ranking of the whole cohort, everyone that played. And this, I think, Michel, is the starting point indeed for, well, starting to think about how can we operationalize this strategy, right? So there's a couple of things that we have ranked as a group to be most important, and that might actually be starting points for our strategy. The strategy, obviously, which takes us to the desired end state that we established in the strategy card in the first game session a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And then what you will see, and I'm just going through this quickly, we can do some Q&A maybe after this, is that if you've done this, you can advance to the causality matrix, and that is what Michel was talking about earlier. I will zoom in a bit.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And this matrix, and Michel, please supplement where you think it's necessary. This matrix will allow you to pinpoint some causalities indeed. So as Michel said, different capabilities are also, they hinge on other capabilities, or they maybe negatively affect some other capabilities, right? So you can't have it all. It's as simple as that. And you also have to choose which capabilities will we start with. So we've made a subset, we've ranked them, and now we have to think about, okay, but let's say we want card 21. Maybe it positively impacts card 11. Or maybe another card negatively impacts this capability. So there can be a positive or negative causality between these capabilities. And this is something where you really have to start thinking strategically, because, well, if you do focus or invest very heavily on, let's say, R&D, that's probably going to help with some new innovations that you want to work on, let's say. So like invest in R&D will probably positively influence implementation of protective measures, right? But maybe if you spend all your money on something else, it's difficult to do this. So there might actually even be negative causalities, where if you, I don't know, focus really on capability 10, you might not be able to do capability 21, let's say, just as an example. So when and the game will be open after this still for you guys to try this out. You can just click on these cells, and if you click once, they turn green. If you click twice, they turn red. And that allows you to indicate which causality you think is at play here. So if you think, well, card 47 is positively impacting card 14, there's a positive relation there, then you click once. If you click twice, they turn red. Well, and maybe you want to just focus on a couple of them. You don't have to fill it out for all of them. Maybe let's say the most important 5 causalities, for example, right? We can make a decision there. And then what the result of this will be is that we also have a group matrix again, which shows how everyone has indicated these causalities. And this is a bit of an incomplete picture because again, this was a screenshot from this morning. So we had some early birds who were already working on this. But once you guys will all start to do this in the game portal, it will look a bit more full. But it already shows that, for example, there is a negative causality, according to you guys, between card 3 and 1. So card 1 is negatively impacted by card 3. As far as you guys are concerned. And what you can do here is that we see an aggregated result, right, of the causalities that everyone pinpoints. A lot of green ones I see. Don't be afraid to highlight a red one if you see it. And we can after make an analysis of, okay, what do we think as a group are the right capabilities to be focusing on, also looking at these causalities.
Yeah, and I think, Berend, thank you so much for the explanation. And this still, it doesn't show so much, but I think that at some point we have also the bulbs, the green or red bulbs in each cell are shown next to each other, also in terms of volume, isn't it?
True. Yeah, so that's what we would have seen if we had some more time and some more people, well, highlighting these causalities. Very likely, after you guys have been playing this again for a couple of days, it will indeed show that some of the causalities, well, there might be some people who say there's a negative causality, some people who say there's a positive one, and then if one outweighs the other, indeed, we can still make a judgment about that. So it will indeed show the differences, also the volume, in terms of how many clicks, how many votes on this causality.
Yeah. Well, so thank you for the explanation, Berend. I think what is the important takeaway here is not so much for this game as well as in practice. If you happen to come in a position that you have to make proposals for decision making, for example, that you could use this kind of concept to see, okay, if let's say I have $100,000, for example, or rand or whatever, where could I invest it in and what's the best combination? Then this might be one of the options to sort it out, because it's just a methodology to, especially when you're with bigger groups, to come with conclusions on for decision support. Actually, there are other technologies or other methods as well, of course, and still we cannot do it here, but we also did in other tabletop exercises, not in digital format, that whenever you played a card on the table, actually in the group board, then because then we only played with the group board, let's say with 15 people, then you could also use the group every time that a card is being played to ask, okay, what would it cost? Estimate. Okay, we need to have a security operations center, for example, or we should hire a security operations center. What would that cost on, say, a yearly basis? Or what will be an initial investment and a permanent investment to upkeep a certain capability? And that means that in that way, you could also put numbers to each and every card. Now, we did not do that. But let me give you another example of how this could be used as well. We did play this a couple of years back with the Swedish Defense Academy, and they had a total different question asked. Okay, so suppose you have a certain fixed yearly budget for your Ministry of Defense, and you start from scratch. What should you buy and what should you build? And then prices were given for each and every capability, like for a gun or a tank or whatever, or an airplane or a ship or something. And so it is also a nice way to start building your own concept, actually, giving a fixed budget. And in that way, I think it's a nice a tool to also be used also for training, actually, for training and exercising on this one. So, but unfortunately, I think it's a bit too complex for a big group and online. But anyway, this concept, and that's why I explain it a bit to you guys, can be used in this way too, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's a way to structure thinking, right, as a group.
Yeah.
As you say, we also at HSS we use this indeed with real clients as well, real decision makers, and it always works. So it really gives us some guidelines on how to actually approach a scenario or a situation that they're actually in. In between, Michel, there's a couple questions that came in
Yeah.
the Q&A box. I might read them out to you. So
Okay.
let's see, because some are quite relevant.
Yeah, I was watching whether I saw hands shown up, but so I
Yeah,
didn't look at the Q&A.
No, that's good. That's good. I can read out the
Okay.
Q&A. If people still have a question they want to raise, please indeed feel free to raise your hand and we can have you ask the question in a minute. One of the comments that actually quite interesting is, doesn't this allow for herd mentality? If you're all in this group board or group matrix, how do you see that, Michel? How does group think factor into this?
Oh, that could definitely be the case, especially if you don't do your homework. And you can just, okay, everybody votes like this. I should vote like this as well. So yeah, that's always the case, you know. So how to prevent that? So be critical on your own judgments, actually. And that's also why I said at the start, it would be great if you would have taken the time to to dig deeper in, say, if you for a certain capability card not really understood what it might entail, and just dig a bit deeper and find out what it is, because that's where, of course, the learning curve is more steep. But I think in general that's something that's always good. So, and maybe that for multiple reasons that's a good question actually. So if you're in a position to do this kind of exercises, I would say, a more serious decision making, it might always be good to look for people that are basically the red teamers in your team. So the ones that you might ask, okay, whatever we think of, come with a counterintuitive argument, why not? Just to sharpen the minds and to be sure that you don't fall in the trap of groupthink too much. So I think it's a great question. Maybe another one.
Yeah, really good. Thanks. There's another one. I'm going to rephrase it a bit. The question is, do we have a correct causality matrix that we can provide? I'm not so sure if we do. Maybe the interesting question is there like a one solution causality matrix in these kinds of situations in games? Or is it, and they allude to that as well, based on like country or industry or some other kind of background? What do you think about that, Michel?
Yeah, I think it's a bit a rhetorical question in a sense. You know, the complexity of the question that you had to address, of course, is huge. So there's no right or wrong. At the same time, the topic is constantly on the move. I already said it at the start. There's always a kind of rat race between the offenders and defenders. So once you think you are in a good place, the next day you might be surprised because they find a loophole and you will still be threatened. This serious game as such is particularly designed to let you think in structured ways about the topic. And this is not something that you have to do if you are, as I said, suppose you're a CISO, that you do this once and then you're done. This kind of thinking is probably something that you do on a more or less permanent basis, at least once or twice a year. When there has to be there's a new budget cycle, there's opportunity to invest. You should definitely ask yourself the question: are we good enough? Where should we invest in? Where might we even de-invest because it's at the end showed that we made a wrong assumption about the risk, or the opportunity actually. So there's no one perfect solution here.
Clearly. Misha, maybe it's interesting also for the participants here. I mean, you've done quite some of these games, I know, tabletop, also online. It's a way of thinking maybe in terms of capabilities that might be maybe more prevalent already in the cyber world, let's say. Obviously, in military terms, it's also quite, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to think like that, and they often do. In some industries, it's way less a way of thinking already or a way of strategizing. What would you say is something that other industries could learn from, say, the cybersphere in terms of strategic thinking and capability thinking, as we're doing here in this game? Because is it correct that cyber is already an industry where this is quite a regular thing?
I'm not sure, to be honest. What you said indeed is that in defense terms, ministries of defense, this is the way to think about stuff. Especially because for them, so if you're say a commander of the army, for example, there's no such thing as being second. You always have to win, otherwise you lose the battle. And that means that in your terms, if your way of thinking, you always have to come up with the best, the most on the edge, the most forward-leaning ideas and concepts or tools and machines and processes and mental preparedness. And so militaries most of the time think about this in terms of capabilities, because I think at the start of the first explanation of this game on the terminology of capability is the ability to do something with an intended effect, and let's say to protect myself from you killing me. That's but then the question is, okay, what is the capacity to do that? I could use a stick, I could use a gun, I could use a whatever, crossbow, a stone, or just my hands. And if you at a strategic level think about capabilities, the specifics of the specific tool that you're going to use, also in cyber, there's still probably a wide range of options to choose from. But you first have to address what kind of capability that you have. And then if you decide, okay, I need this capability, then you, for example, could go to the market and say, hey, which of the companies could provide me this capability? So what is the capacity that they could deliver? Is the tool X, Y, or Z? So it gives also in terms of planning and strategizing, it overcomes to some extent the idea of groupthink. Okay, I need a tank, so it should be a tank. It could also be I need something heavy to stop others. Oh, I'm in the dark now. I have to wave my hands. I'll just put up, see where that. Sorry for that.
This
Yeah,
is our
here it
one
is.
conference room in the office where the lights turn off sometimes. It's
I'm in a vault. I'm in a vault at this point in time. No, but anyway, but so explaining this, if you use the concept of capability, there's still room for detailed, more concrete solutions to a capability, especially, and that's, well, in militaries, because that's also political. So, so if you go to parliament, at least in the Netherlands, we have to go to parliament for bigger investments. And they would say, hey, it needs this and this capability, and we think it should be a tank kind of thing. And then it's still an option to have a Leopard or a Leonardo or another kind of thing, for example. But this helps to overcome, to think about specifics in a too early stage.
Yeah, great. I've tried to amend the game so that the group board only shows cards that have been placed 10 times. That worked, but when I tried to show the group board again, it blew out again. So,
Okay.
guys, if you're gonna have a look at the game again after this call, tomorrow or the day after, you're gonna see what the group board looks like with only 10, with at least 10 votes per card, so to say. So it's gonna be a bit more structured, bit more, bit less cluttered. Maybe Michel, for a final question, we have one more in the Q&A just now. Based on the red card or alarm, what legal and diplomatic challenges could arise from sanctioning foreign entities for cyber threats? And what lessons can we learn from this red alarm?
Okay, that's an interesting question, and governments have difficulties with this one for multiple reasons. First of all, if you expose who's done it, let's say like that, then immediately also tell your potential opponents that you were after them and that you find out their modus operandi. And by finding out their modus operandi, you show that you are capable of doing that. Well, at the same time, of course, in a lot of cases, the attacks are set up in such a way that there's plausible deniability or plausible deniability. And so you have to have a real good and strong case to blame, for example, another country. You've been attacking us. So the attribution is often a challenge, and it is not always governments to want to do that for this reason, but also for diplomatic reasons. It could be that they still want to have good relations with a certain country, although they are being attacked, either maybe small attacks by that government or by proxies of that government. And that's always also a problematic case. So, for example, in the case of Russia and Ukraine, it's obvious that that Russians have attacked Ukrainians with cyber attacks, but it is often also the case that there are voluntary groups, at least those being claimed to be voluntary, that did the attacks, and that in this case, for example, the Russian government would say, "Hey, it's not us. Don't blame us. They're independent, and we're not able to stop them." And this is where it gets tricky also for diplomats to be very firm and black and white on who's done it. So so what you often see is that the other way around, that all kind of cybersecurity companies do present their yearly updates on who's done it. Let's say it like that, addressing advanced persistent threat groups, and show some statistics, and then it of course shows that certain countries that do have a lot of APTs linked to them in one way or the other are definitely more guilty than others. If you're interested in that, I think we have on our website, HCSS website, we have the Cyber Arms Watch. We can share, I think, the link there, Berend, for those that
Yeah, I
are
will look it
interested.
up just now.
But this is well, the short answer to the problematic issue of governments blaming others with regard to cyber, because it's not so obvious.
Yeah, very interesting. Tom Muster from Hunt and Hackett also went into this about in his lecture, right? Showing different countries, different APTs. You can always make some kind of inference based on, well, the data that you find. But the diplomatic aspect, I think, is very tricky. I think we've recently even seen this between the United States, right, and Russia. That I think the United States is even dialing down on its cyber offense programs regarding or aimed at Russia even. Wait,
Yeah.
I will post the link to the Cyber Arms Watch now in the chat. Yes, there it goes. Let's see. How much time do we still have? We have a couple of minutes. There have been some final questions. Yeah, maybe I can answer these. They're all about the game, how to proceed with the game for now. The traffic issues are very unfortunate. We cannot help it really. So it's also a bit of a pickle for us. But I've just now, during Michel's explanation, opened the voting again for everyone, which means that everyone is now able to, again, cast their votes. The ones who have already done that don't have to do it again, of course, but the people who didn't manage to do it yet, they can now try. And that means that you can then also advance to the causality and the ordering of cards to those phases. I think we will just leave it open until the end of the school. It's a bit unfortunate that we have these traffic issues. So this is probably the best way to allow to try it out at least over the next week and a half, whilst you're also working on your challenges. So yeah, we're gonna leave it open until the end of the school. In terms of attendance, we mostly count the game sessions, and we can also see who is active in the game portal, but we obviously understand that with these traffic issues, it might be difficult to access it at some times. So I would say just keep on trying, and you can very likely have a moment to at least check it out before the end of the school. I think, Michel, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you a lot for your explanations in this session. I think it was very useful, even though we had to base it off of screenshots that we happened to take beforehand. I think it still has given quite some insights into how you think in terms of capabilities and strategic thinking in cyber. There is.
I think there's still one hand from Tuso,
Yeah,
isn't
there's
it?
one
So
hand up.
I'll allow the camera. Go ahead, Tuso.
Let's see. You can now unmute yourself, Tuso.
Good day, everyone. I just want to know how do we how do we like how do we openly going to respond to this bad HTTP request when we trying to log into the game, because it seems like it's going to be a frequent thing.
So it's quite hard to understand. I think your mic is a bit muffled. Can you maybe try again or type it in the Q&A,
Okay.
Tuso?
Let me just. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. My question is, how are we going to handle this bad HTTP request while trying to engage with the game? Because it seems like it's going to happen frequently now as the server issues are being dealt with.
Yeah, it's a good question, Tuso, but unfortunately we have no way of changing anything that will make this easier. The game is hosted on an external server, so we have very little control over the traffic issues that we run into right now. But what we will do, we will just leave it open until the end of the school, which will hopefully give you all some time to at least try it in the next week and a half. Hopefully that will spread the traffic a bit and see everyone be able to log in at some point. But yes, it's a bit unfortunate. We're sorry about that. It's difficult for us to really fix it now.
Okay, there's another one from Matete. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay. So my question actually is not around today's presentation as such. Okay, but maybe before I even actually go to my question, I just want to say I'd like to raise my appreciation actually for this opportunity. Like I would say that I really learned a lot, and to consider that or to realize that this is actually like for free. Okay, I don't know if maybe okay. I know for sure like you spend your time. So I really just want to say that I appreciate, and I'm sure that a lot of people who are also attending are also appreciating as much as I do. But the question that I had was. Okay, so I registered with a Gmail account actually to attend the program. And I've been struggling to join with an email, like whenever there's a session. So yeah, I don't know actually like how to join with an email. So I've just been putting in my full name, but I don't know how to join with an email if I'm using a Gmail account using Teams.
Yeah,
so,
thank you. Thank you, Mpete, for the compliments. We're very happy that you enjoyed it so much and that you learned already a lot. That's the goal of this school, so that's great to hear. In terms of the attendance, the attendance process is automated. But if you were logging in every time with your full name, I think that should work out. Sounds to me like that's a pretty clear sign that you were online all the time. So I think that will work out. But again, it's automated, so we'll have to see. We're running the calculations, but we'll definitely let you know. Yeah. Maybe the
Okay,
final
then-
question
Thank you.
from, thank you, from Africa Mpopetsi. Please go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself right now.
Cool.
Ah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Can everybody hear me? I hope you can hear me,
Yes.
guys.
Yes.
Hey man,
yes.
I would also like to express my gratitude and my appreciation for all of this, and my interests have been piqued to the most. I mean, when I joined this, it was speaking about cybersecurity, right? And I thought it was just gonna be basic stuff, how to I went through a course, cybersecurity course on how to your basic stuff, where they teach you how to actually avoid or prevent hacks or attacks from the outside world, and it was very basic, so basic that I thought, hey man, can this go any deeper? And this has actually proven that this is actually far more extensive than I actually had imagined, and with that being said, I would like to learn more. I'd like to go in deeper. Like, I mean, I want to go all the way, and I'm speaking from a legal perspective, as a legal practitioner. And it's really, like I'm saying, it's really piqued my interest. And so last week I was supposed to join the challenge, but I got my message. I actually opened my emails the day after, and it was the 21st. That was the 20th, and it was the 21st. So I'm struggling to get onto the challenges and the whatnots, and I don't know if there's any chance that I can still join. I don't know. Please assist.
Yeah, thank you also, Africa, for your great comments. Regarding the challenge question, could you please reach out to us via cyberschool@hess.nl? We would have to double check that. I don't know by heart what we can and cannot do there. But the deadline to register has passed, so I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
please reach out to us via email, so we can have a look. And thanks
Okay,
for.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
All right.
and there's, I
Okay,
think,
thank
a
you.
last one. That's from Copano. You're now allowed, I think so.
Yeah, let's
Please
see.
go ahead, Copano.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I do not take it lightly. First of all, thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise and everything. I'm very thankful for that. Anyways, I have been facing problems with regards to being consistent with, cause I'm already a registered student. I'm doing my ICT. Specializing in mobile applications. So it was very difficult for me to keep up to the schedule of attending classes like fully every time, because you might find the sessions that you guys held they clash up with my test date and whatsoever. So I would like to ask, if I don't get that certificate of attendance or whatsoever, does it end there, or are there other programs that I can get into, maybe I could find opportunities in? Thank you.
Good question. There's definitely other programs out there. We might even share an overview at the end of the school with everyone. I think that's useful. It's a good thing to point out. In terms of the certificate, again, that's all automated. You might actually still make it. We will have to see. They're running the calculations. But there's definitely other opportunities, and we'll be sure to share it with you guys, with everyone, because obviously that's a really good thing to do. We have the Talent Accelerator track also from our end, which is an extension of the SANC, so to say, at the Cybersecurity Institute. But to be eligible to apply for that, you would need both certificates. So, I mean, that's maybe then a tricky thing. But yeah, we will definitely inform you guys of more opportunities. It's a very good thing. Thank you. Michel, I don't know how you are on time.
I can handle one last question. So that's Chitsi, I think it's called.
Yes, and this is really the last one, because then we're out of time. Any other queries, please reach out to us via email. We'll be sure to have a look. Tsitsi, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Ask your question.
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
All right, great. Actually, that's not a question, but it's just a comment. As someone who comes from the background of IT, I really enjoyed the session. Since like I think it's Africa who was just gave the comment because we share the same sentiments. Whereby even myself, I just thought about it, like thinking it's something very simple and very basic, but I really appreciate because it was very diverse, and honestly, I learned a lot from it. So I think now I have a question. One more question that I have. I think I received the email that was talking about the scholarship that we can take our chance and apply for. But I tried to check the email, but I didn't see any link where we can do the applications. So just want to know whether the applications are open or they will be open after we have finished with the challenge.
Yes, good question. Good to hear, Tsitsi. Thank you. And yes, we will open it later. It will only be able to apply for the people who have both their certificates. And it's hosted by the Cybersecurity Institute, one of our partners. And they will open it after SANCS has concluded, because then we also have a picture of who is eligible. And you will all, for sure, get an email with the link to be able to apply. Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you again. I think this was a very good session, Michel. Again, for everyone, just quickly, the challenge deadline is in the middle of next week. We have the closing ceremony at the end of next week. Please be there. We'll be showing the videos of the winning challenge teams. You obviously all still have some time to start working on that, finish working on that, make a nice product out of it. I think there's also a chance to still try and get on the game. We will leave it open until the end of the school. And we will hope that traffic-wise, it's a bit lighter if we spread it out. Let's see how that works. For any other questions that might still happen or come up, please reach out to us via cyberschool@hess.nl via email. And then I think for today, Michel, I would like to thank you for your time.
No worries.
And for all your
Thank you.
explanations, the good insights into how capability, strategic thinking is a thing in cyber and also in defense. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey guys, success with your rest of your course and the challenges, of course.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice
Bye-bye.
evening.